All right. Hello, Facebook land. Hello, YouTube viewers. Welcome to our PCS grades webinar. I'm Tessa Robinson, your host for today. My wonderful co-host is doing what all military families do in the summer, which is PCSing. How appropriate. So it's just me flying solo today, but we have two awesome guests to talk to you about the updated housing market. We have Dan DeVille, CEO and co-founder of Sentry Residential, and Susan Lenaway, an industry expert who's really going to help us dive into VA loans. As you know, the best way to have a chance to win our awesome prize today is to comment, ask questions, get all of your PCS orders, anything you need, get all those questions answered by asking our industry experts. And at the end of the webinar, we'll be giving away a Stressless PCS kit, a This Too Shall PCS t-shirt, and a $25 Amazon gift card, which you can use on anything you want. What a gift. You're entered to win simply by asking questions and leaving comments in the comment section below. Comment now by telling us whether or not you're PCSing this year. So our first question, always my favorite, kind of a softball. Dan, we'll start with you. Introduce yourself and tell us your background and how you help military families.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, if I get this one wrong, we are in for a very difficult and long webinar. But I'm Daniel DeVille. I'm CEO of Sentry Residential, and it is such an honor to be here with you all today. We've got a big topic, a possibly scary topic to be going through right now as we go into the fall 2022 real estate market, a market like we've never seen before. But the reason I'm here, as I said, is I'm CEO of Sentry Residential. I'm actually part of 8 generations of military, leading up to my dad, who's a Vietnam veteran, Air Force veteran. But I grew up in a military family that really stood for the military values. Every single day in my household, we talked about hard work. We talked about doing it with a smile on your face, and we talked about doing it with honor and service. And ultimately, that's what I carried forward into my career. I actually have been a serial entrepreneur, launched a headphone company back in 2008, right in perfect timing for the last real estate crash. We eventually grew that to be the #1 selling sport headphone in the world, and then had an acquisition with that company, then ran a sports equipment company. But all of that wasn't doing for me what I really wanted, which was connecting my heart back to service in some way. Ultimately, that I've got a chance to do that again in 2018 when we launched Sentry Residential, which is the first ever nationwide brokerage that's set to serve military members and veterans. Our company is just full of people just like you. I would say the average person, about 90% of our agents in the country are either former military, active duty military, or military spouses who have PCS themselves. They know what it's like to walk a mile in your shoes, and therefore they can relate and have a higher level of service than what you'll find anywhere else. We as a company then specialize in living to serve those who serve to live, but we also help exiting military members with next steps in their career should they be considering going into real estate or mortgage. So all of that is good. All of that is great. But the reality is what I am more than anything else is a dad to 4 awesome little girls. And I can't help but show my girls right there, the youngest of whom is 9 months old right now. So we were right in the mix of it. And yes, I did say 4 girls. No, I was not a combo. There was not, radiation that's been blasted through me, but I did get blessed with 4 awesome little kiddos.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, we are so excited to have you on the show today. Just bringing your passion for military community and for service. It's really exciting. And 8 generations. I'm not very good at math, but I know that's a very long time.
So my family was Catholic, and the Catholic Church does just a phenomenal job of keeping records. If they did nothing else right, they did a great job with that. And I was able to find a book that actually documented it was not just my family, it was this entire small town's lineage all the way back. And the first one that I found was actually part of Napoleon's army over in France, and started with that and then just trickled down generation to generation.
That is amazing. Well, we're thrilled to have you. Susan Lenaway, your turn. We hear you have a big graduation in the house, but first tell us a little bit about you.
Yes, so I am a military brat. I grew up on military bases all across the country. I've always lived on a military base or right outside of a military base, including right now. I live right outside of Camp Pendleton in San Diego. I have been in the real estate and mortgage industry for 30 years, helping military families achieve the dream of home ownership. And there's nothing that I would rather do with my life. As you mentioned, I do have exciting month this month. I just I'm in Central California right now. I just drove my to San Jose University, and next week I'm going to my older son's graduation at MIT with a degree in math and analytics. So exciting times.
First of all, that's amazing. Absolutely incredible. Congratulations and thank you. As I'm working on summer math with my fourth grader, I am just really impressed by the fact that you have a son graduating from MIT. So we'll go ahead and get started just to give everybody a little overview of the day. Dan will be answering most of our questions about real estate, and then Susan's going to really help us dive into VA loans in a little bit. So Dan, we'd love to have you provide an overview of the current housing market. We get that there's not a single housing market and it varies by area, but what are your takeaways on things currently happening?
Yeah, and let me, because I'm not doing the job that I was supposed to be doing on showing two things, let me put one more thing up here and then I'll dive into that question. As I did mention, I want to offer to everyone that's on this class, we're all about education at Sentry. If you have considered a career in real estate or lending, there's a QR code that's up there on the screen right now. I'll leave it for just a second. You can scan it. We actually give webinars through the Military Spouse Employment Partnership, as well as other DoD programs to help people as they're in entrepreneurship, careers in real estate, careers in lending. Because ultimately, if you want to buy a house, a great way to do that is to make sure that you can afford it with a fulfilling career. I'll also throw one more thing up here for you. This is where Sentry is serving currently. If you don't see your state up there, that's A-OK. We're going to talk about a lot of these markets right now, the difference between them, because the answer to that question is that it does very, very, very much vary by market right now because of all of the volatility that's been going on. Remember that you asked me to answer this question, and as I start diving in, you asked for it, but we're going to talk today about fall 2022. I'm going to give you my perspective. Now, I'm hoping that this is an educated answer, but the reality is there's no crystal ball in real estate. Anyone, and I mean anyone, that tells you that they have it all figured out, they might be just blowing a little bit of smoke there. But there are great factors, there are great metrics and great data that we can use to answer this question. So we're going to dive in. We're going to try and make some sense of what's going on. And in order to do that, I think there's really four categories that we want to talk about. Prices and what's going on with prices currently, volatility, where are those prices going? How quickly are they going to be going there? Inventory, and then last but not least, interest rates. So we'll start off with prices. Now, when we're using data to analyze prices, the first thing that we got to realize is that data is always lagging. So the data that we're going to use right now is actually data from June of 2022, but it's the most factual and relevant data that we have to go on right now. And the first thing that I'll say is we are in a housing market price correction. In June 2022, the housing prices absolutely shocked the market. It was the single largest drop of home prices in a month, okay? A 1 month drop, the biggest one in over 50 years. So this is groundbreaking. This is earth shattering. The prices fell by a little over 2% in a single month. Now, 2% may not seem like that big of a number, but do me a favor, just extrapolate that out for the entire year. We're talking about over 25% price drop if it were to continue like it did in June, annualized across all of 2022. Now, this makes sense because if you've been paying any attention to what's going on in mortgage rates, they went up from 4.375% on average on May 1st to 6.125% on June 10th. Let's talk about another historical moment. That is the largest jump ever in history, ever in the history of the United States to have that big of a gap. Now, to put that into perspective, If you had a $500,000 mortgage that you were taking out in May of this year, it would cost you about $2,500 per month. That same mortgage 30 days later is now going to cost you $3,100 per month, $600. That's a 20% increase in your house payment just over the course of a single month. These are drastic changes. Now, one of the contributing factors to the fact that prices are dropping like that beyond the mortgage rates themselves is the fact that for a couple of years now, we've had this leapfrog of pricing going on. And what I mean by that is my neighbor sells their house, they get X amount for it. Well, now it's my turn to sell, and people weren't looking at X as their number anymore as the comp. They said, well, they got that, then I'm going to try and get this. And guess what? They did. And then the next neighbor said, I'm going to get this, and raised it by another $20,000, and they got it. And then another 20,000 and another, and it just kept going like that. Okay. Now that the market is starting to correct, you've got this person that did that last leapfrog, but guess what? The market has now said, we're not going with that. That is too much for that house. So not only did they have to correct for possibly a shifting down in the market, but the first correction came just eliminating that last round of leapfrogs. And now we're starting to see the market come back down below that. Now, we'll likely see some of that continue as sellers get used to what this new normal is. But you got to understand, this is a painful thing to sellers for sellers to go through, because up until the last 30 to 60 days, they could just price their house seemingly at whatever they wanted and be able to get it. So the new normal, the reality is coming in. The good news is, if you're in a buying seat, is that ultimately a house is not worth what a seller or even an agent believes that it's ultimately worth. It's worth what you're willing to pay for it. It's worth what any buyer is willing to pay for it. The last thing I'll say about those prices is that another contributing factor is actually new builds, new construction across the United States in many markets over the course of the last month have decreased their prices by 5 to 10%. You're talking about thousands of new construction homes going down by 5 to 10%. So that makes a big impact on the overall price drop number that we see here. Now, once sellers and agents align on what the new market reality is, we will see fewer and fewer price drops. So I don't think that that number is actually going to hit 25% on at least a national scale for the year. But I do think that there will be certain markets where that will continue to go along. Now, one last piece of good news for you. If you are a seller, price drops are working. Currently, 70% of the homes that had a price drop in this last month, they all sold within 30 days of that price drop. 70% sold within 30 days of that price drop. So if you're on the selling side, maybe a time to really take a deep, long, hard look at what your home value is, but it's not going to necessarily mean that your house will just sit indefinitely. Okay, that's a lot for one. I hope that you guys are putting questions in there, and we'll come back and address those, because I'd love to go back and forth, but I'm going to go into the second piece of this, and that's volatility. So the places that will get hit the most, all right? So if you're out there and you're living somewhere and going, is my equity that I've been looking at on Zillow going up and up, is that going to stick around? Maybe is the answer. And the way that you can really have the best understanding of that is what happened to home prices in your area during the pandemic. The pandemic home buying hotspots are going to be the places that got hit the hardest. Some of these places had increases of 60 to 80% in value over the course of 2 years. That's not a typo. That is 60 to 80% increase in value over the course of 2 years. People flocked from more expensive places to places like Phoenix, Boise, Tampa, Riverside, Las Vegas, Jacksonville, Florida, Nashville. Now, those places can quite possibly see a decrease in prices by as much as 20 to 30% over the next year from what they were at their peak value at the height of all of this. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't buy in those markets. What that means is that if you saw those prices go up, if you're going to be buying now, keep your eye out for a bargain, keep your eye out for a value, and be willing to either wait or fight for that. Areas that saw slower growth, so Ohio, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Missouri, New York, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Maryland, Virginia, those are places that will likely still see a fairly strong real estate market over the course of the next 6 to 12 months. And I would expect that you would see things just lightly soften in some of those in-between markets. So that's number two. Number three is inventory. What in the world is going on with inventory currently? Now, the lowering of prices is partially due to the fact that we're seeing more inventory right now than we have seen in the past few years, really. Now, in March of this year, this is not forever ago, this is just a few months ago, there were only 240,000 single family homes available on the market. That may seem like a big number, but 2 years ago, that number was 1.1 million. 1.1 million down to 240,000. That's less than 25% of what we see in a normal market. But in the last 5 months, that number has jumped by 125%. Just in the last few months, 125% increase from March, which leaves us now with 538,000 homes for sale nationwide. But to be clear, I gave you the number of 1.1 million. We're still at about half of what we should be seeing in a normal real estate market. So there should be about 1 million homes that are for sale in the United States in a healthy market. We're still sitting right now at 538,000 homes. So there is still some advantage going to seller because there's limited inventory, but the advantage is, as I said, very quickly shifting right now, moving from seller's market into more of a neutral market. Because the other thing that's happening right now is it's not just more sellers that are listing their home. That would be a natural way for there to become more inventory available on the market. This is houses that are sitting longer. We're actually seeing that inventory is sitting longer and longer on the day. So this is back here on pricing. You can see what prices look like if I share my screen and don't just talk about what I'm showing. Give me 1 second here. So a couple graphs for you. I'm a visual person. Oftentimes it's helpful for me to be able to see what's actually going on via a graph. So this is what price increases have looked like. You can see what a traditional market looks like as it gradually goes. This year, this is what price reductions have done just since the beginning of the year. It is going up in almost an exponential rate currently. Beyond that, inventory also spiking up. You can see in a normal market, we sit right here around 1 million, and you see there is seasonality where it goes up and down, but never does it increase as rapidly with as great of an incline as you see over there, what's happening with prices currently. So inventory has gone up quite a bit. The last thing that we'll address today on this first of many questions is rates. I mentioned earlier what's been going on with rates. Now, you may be hearing in the news quite a bit about the Fed and what the Fed is doing with rate hikes. Now, you need to be able to decouple mortgage interest rates from the Fed rate hikes. The Fed rate hikes, so we've had 2 each of the last 2 months, and each of those was a 0.75% rate hike. Each of those was significant because that is the single largest one-time rate hike that has ever been done by the Fed. And not only did they do it once, they did it 2 of their meetings and sessions in a row. And they're expected to have another rate hike when they meet again here in September. Now, those rate hikes don't directly correlate to an interest rate hike in your mortgage. Those are more focused at consumerism, at your instantaneous spending. Those are your credit cards, your car loans, the things that have people out in the market just spending money, potentially what they perceive as with frivolity because it's causing inflation to rise at a rampant rate. That's what they are trying to correct. That's what they are trying to overcome right now, which is why they're increasing those rates. In fact, with that last rate hike of 0.75% last month, within a week, the average mortgage rate dropped by 0.375%. So that's an indication that those rate hikes are actually, they're significant, but they're separate from what's going on in the mortgage industry. That's going to track more closely with the bond market. That's going to track more closely with other factors that are not directly tied to the Fed. Now, the Fed does continue to expect to see rates increase until they get inflation down to 2 to 2.5%. And for perspective, The last number that's out there is that currently we are at 9.8% inflation. So there's a ways to go, and there's probably quite a few more rate hikes in our future before we actually see ourselves get down there. I do expect that to cause some more volatility in mortgage interest rates, but I think that for conventional loans, kind of through the end of this year, we'll likely see things stay between 5 and 6%, fluctuating, a half point here and there. And then for VA, somewhere between 4.25 and 5, maybe 5.25%. So I think that's kind of the range. I do think as we go into 2023, as things have stabilized, that we will actually see that interest rates will start to come back down. Don't know how significantly. We've been in an unprecedented season of low rates. Will we see twos again in our life? That seems highly unlikely, but you just never know. But I think for the next 6 months to 12 months, you can expect it to be fairly stable. The last impact on inflation, the final thing to keep in mind is that a lot of that tracks with consumer confidence as well, which directly correlates and impacts the real estate market. When consumers have confidence, which is what causes inflation, a lot of money and a lot of confidence, people think they can just spend and spend, drives prices up. Right now, the Fed is trying to bring those down. With that comes down consumer confidence, which also then brings down the number of buyers that are looking to buy, even if interest rates were to be coming back down. So it's likely that we do see a buyer pool that shrinks over the next 6 months, which could give you a better opportunity to be purchasing. And man, that was a long answer to one question. I apologize. I promise the rest of them will not be that long.
Gee, Dan, I wish you were more passionate about this. So one of the things, I think we all have a story about a friend who PCSed in the last 6 months or so. And, I have a dear one who moved to California and they ended up living in an RV with 4 kids and 2 dogs for months while they waited for any type of housing to be available for rent or to buy.
Yeah.
So that said, what does this mean for military families for this fall and for this winter PCS season?
Yep. So there's a number of things that will be impacted. Have exorbitantly here. I'm in San Diego County as well. Last year, rents went up by 30%, which to me is an argument for buying in many circumstances, because then you're at least in control by having a locked in payment. But the first question I'm always asking myself and asking for ourselves for our clients who are PCSing is, should I buy? Ultimately, long-term horizon, the answer is ultimately almost always unequivocally yes, but when and where then becomes the question. So the real answer is everyone's favorite military answer, which is it depends. Depends on where you're going, how long you're going to be there, and what you're going to do with that house after you leave. In some markets, it may make sense right now to rent, or even worse. I'm going to say these words, not worse. If you're living on base, it's probably a great thing. I know a lot of people who have been very happy living on base with the communities there, but you may want to rent or forego BAH and live on base for some time. If you're going to sit on the sideline and not purchase, at least make sure that you use that time to your advantage. One, be saving up for eventually what you will be putting into a home. 2, be educating yourself on what the purchase process will look like, and make sure that you understand very well your VA loan benefit and how that can empower you when it does come time to purchase. Because my advice to you is that it is likely going to make sense to purchase as long as you find yourself in a situation where you know that the market that you're in is either one that's not going to be extremely volatile. It's not on that list that I mentioned up there before. 2, that you've got an exit strategy, that you're purchasing the home as if you are an investor and you understand what things like rents will be in that particular market. 3, it's likely that even this year, we potentially could see BAH rates increase for many markets, just following along with what has happened in the real estate market. There's going to have to be an adjustment. There are ridiculous things that happen where last year Hawaii's BAH went down in the midst of this, which I'm hoping that is not going to be something that happens universally in other places. But it's likely, I would expect that we do see BAH rates begin to go up. In many of those markets I mentioned, like the Midwest, there's still places that you can purchase near your base that will actually have a rent to price ratio that will make sense for you to buy. And then when you leave, be able to rent it and actually have it be cash flow rental for you out of the gate. Now, if you're coming out here to San Diego, we're in a higher market. We're not expecting to see, as much of a downturn here as we would see in other places, but there may be some moderate corrections here over the course of the next year. So in that case, there may be people who are hypersensitive to that and don't want to find themselves in an upside down position on their house where maybe they owe more than what the house eventually becomes worth. It could be a time where they take a year even just to pump the brakes, watch what happens with the market as it goes through the volatility of this recession that we are in, and then be able to make a decision a year from now while only giving up, 1 year of that BAH and those dollars to someone who is going to be renting to them. Another thing you can do as you're getting educated, I'm going to put another QR code up here on the screen for you. I'm full of QR codes today. So one, PCS Grades is a phenomenal resource for answering the question of should I buy, when should I buy? Not only are they a great resource because they have the great tools that they have, but they've also got great partners that you can be connected with, lenders, real estate agents that can help you to answer that question as well. We at Sentry have a military home buyer series. This link is going to take you to a YouTube playlist where I believe there's 14 videos on what it looks like to purchase as a military member or veteran, the different tools and the resources that are available to you. So these are 2-minute videos. Spend some time. You can make yourself familiar with those and get educated during this season. Another tool that we have available for you on another QR code is a rent versus buy calculator. This is ultimately another key factor in making your decision. When you're asking, should I rent, should I buy, go onto our website and you can actually use this tool. And with it, you put in a couple of simple pieces of information and it'll even ask you how many years you think you are going to be in that house, what appreciation you will be presuming will be there. And it will tell you what your net worth variance would be if you were to rent during that time frame or own during that exact same time frame. A compelling tool like this, more often than not, is actually going to show you the power of owning your real estate as opposed to renting. But then again, even then, make sure you're keeping your eyes on volatility, because if you're going to be in a market for 3-year orders and we're right in the midst of a swinging and shifting market, and you're in one of those markets that already had a volatile price increase, it could be in for a massive downturn. And I'd hate for anybody to be stuck owing a bank more money than their house is worth when it does come time to PCS if they've not calculated and considered whether or not they'll be able to rent that place when they go.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Some really great resources there for folks getting ready to buy. Dan, what one piece of advice would you have for somebody ready to sell?
So if I was going to sell right now, first piece of advice is get a great agent. And I mean a phenomenal agent. Now, what that usually can look like is looking at ratings and reviews. I know that PCS Grades has a phenomenal tool for you on their website where you can go on and see what other military members, how they have rated and reviewed the agents that you may be choosing there. But a great agent's going to have a good understanding of how to price your home competitively in order to get you the highest and the best. Online reviews, really, from Zillow, from Yelp, from Google, those are great places. It's really hard to hide if you don't have reviews out there. You'll get to see what type of transactions that person has done before. Second thing, be realistic about the price. Like I said earlier, the leapfrog is over. It's almost always better to be priced at a reasonable amount, even slightly under the market, because that will cause a buyer feeding frenzy where you get yourself into multiple offers and your price will actually end up higher. And you'll end up selling for more than what you would have sold for if you chose a higher price, just assuming and wanting the market to give you what you believe your house was worth. I'd also tell you to prepare for more standard timeframes. We've been in this absolute seller spoiled market where homes were just selling and 30 days later they were gone. We're probably looking more in that traditional market, which is a 60 to 90 day time frame for your house to be selling. The last thing I'd say to you is don't panic. There's still a lot of people out there that want to be buying homes right now. The good days are not gone. The good times are not over for good. Just understand that there's some rate changes and some economic mix-up that's going on right now that's going to make things operate slightly differently, but it's still going to be a good time to sell.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. What you mentioned the importance of having a good agent. What are some of the things that a military family should specifically look for when trying to find an agent?
Yeah. First and foremost is experience. Ultimately, there's a lot of real estate agents out there, and there's a lot of really, really good real estate agents out there. And there are some that are not so good, but agents that are experienced are always going to be there for you. And experience looks like the number of times they have gone through a transaction with a client. And that's important because I'll speak on behalf of all agents and all brokers. Every single time you go through a transaction, you learn something new, and you learn a lot of some things that are new because every one of them is different. Everyone comes with its own complexities. So the more that they've had the opportunity to do, the more likely they are to be able to help you to navigate more tumultuous things that may come up in a real estate transaction. Second thing I would tell you is find someone that understands your current situation. They need to know what the complexities of the VA home loan are. They need to understand clearly what BAH is and know what the acronym stands for. They even should be able to know where to go and find out what your BAH will be as you're PCSing in. They should be a resource to that level for you. They should understand what a PCS is. Ideally, they've even gone through one themselves. You guys can joke about your Diddy move and having friends sit in the back of the truck to add weight. Whatever it is, make sure that they understand your situation. The third thing I would say to you is personal connection, experience. They got to understand you in personal connection. If you don't like the agent that you're working with, probably not someone you're going to want to buy or sell with. So after you know that they are a good qualified agent, you've done your research on their reviews, you feel like they understand your situation and can actually serve you well, then figure out, like, do I like this person? Is this someone I want to make one of the biggest decisions in my life with? If you're looking for someone that fits that bill, those are basically the three standards that we have for agents at Sentry Residential, that their experience. We only allow quality experienced agents to join our brokerage, unlike many others. And ultimately, we want to make sure that they can do a great job of serving what we believe to be the most important clientele on the planet, which is military members and veterans.
Wonderful. We have a great story here from Jenna. Just have to share this. We've heard an agent called BAH, bah, like the sheep. We went with a great agent.
Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. Oh, that's funny.
PCS Grades has wonderful resources in finding a perfect agent for your military family who know the ins and outs, such as BAH versus bah. One thing that you mentioned was the importance of your agent understanding VA loans. That's a really nice softball for our next question.
There you go.
It's finally her turn, folks. Susan, tell us.
Stop talking.
It's not just Dan. Let's talk loans. Tell us some of the pros and cons about conventional versus the VA. Everything our viewers need to know about loans this season.
Perfect. So people often ask me, Susan, what is the best loan that I can use to buy a home? And if you're a service member or a veteran, I will recommend VA most of the time. It's an amazing benefit and one that you should definitely take advantage of. However, VA is not the loan I recommend all the time, which is why conventional loans and other loan programs are so important to you. The VA will allow you to purchase the home that you're going to live in, whereas conventional loans will allow you to buy rental properties, second homes, vacation homes, and the home that you're going to live in. With all of this news about the market readjusting, there is good news too. This is such a great time because there are so many different quality loan options available today that haven't been readily available in the last few years. Conventional loans offer flexibility. So they can offer fixed rate loans for terms of 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. And the lower of a term that you choose, the better your interest rate can be. Over the last couple of years, the government had to artificially decrease interest rates in order to make sure that our economy didn't crash during a global pandemic. And now that rates are readjusting to try and get us back to what a normal market looks like, there are home buyers out there that were pre-qualified for a home loan that can no longer qualify for that same home. But that's the beauty of all of these options, because instead of just using the 30-year fixed loan all of the time, there are other loan programs that we could be using in this country. One of the things that conventional loans offer is something called a hybrid ARM. A hybrid ARM is an adjustable rate mortgage that offers a guaranteed fixed rate of 5 years, 7 years, 10 years at the beginning of the loan before it turns into an adjustable loan. And these loans offer lower rates than the fixed 30-year loans, which gives you more opportunity to qualify for more of a home. So let's say you're in the military or you have a civilian job where you know that you're going to move in the next 3 years. You could take advantage of a 5/1 ARM, get the lower rate. It will guarantee you a fixed rate mortgage for 5 years, giving you that 2-year pad just in case there's a delay in your move and before it turns into an adjustable loan. And so that's the beauty of conventional products, is that there are so many different options available. And that's important because your life is always different and where you're moving is always different and properties are always different. Other conventional options that are available, there's wonderful first-time homebuyer programs that have lower down payment options and provide homeowner education. If you want to buy a fixer-upper, that's all over the TV now. There's wonderful renovation loans. If you want to build your own custom home, construction to permanent loans are back, which is exciting. If you have a bunch of equity in your house and you need to pull some money out to do some repairs or to pay off some credit cards, but you don't want to refinance that beautiful interest rate you have on your first mortgage, home equity lines of credit are back. And so you could actually get a loan for $50,000, but if you only need $10,000 of it to do the repairs on your home, then you're only going to make payments on that $10,000. And so there's just so many amazing opportunities out there that you can take advantage of depending on what your individual situation is. But the reason why I tend to believe that VA is often the best option for you if you are a service member or a veteran is because there are benefits that the VA loan has that other loans don't have. And so those benefits end up being there are no loan limits. With other loan programs, with the conventional loan programs, there's a ceiling on what lenders are willing to lend. On VA, there's no ceiling. There's no down payment on a VA loan. The rates are often lower than any of the other conventional products. There's a limit to the closing costs that you can be charged. You can ask the seller to pay closing costs for you. And now, over these last couple of years, when the market got super aggressive and a seller was getting multiple offers on their home, they weren't willing to pay any closing costs. But now that we are transitioning or trying to transition into a normal market and houses are going to be on the market for a little bit longer, you're going to see more and more sellers that are willing to start negotiating and maybe willing to pay some of your closing costs, which is super exciting. If you were to get a VA loan today and then rates go down next year, which we're kind of anticipating that they will settle back down. On a VA loan, they have this wonderful streamlined process that is just so much easier to do than the traditional refi on other loan types. To help you get into that lower interest rates if rates do in fact decrease next year, as we're hoping. VA loans don't have any mortgage insurance. One of the things about conventional loans is that if you put less than 20% down on a conventional loan, there's this added amount that is in your monthly payment to cover for mortgage insurance on conventional loans. VA loans don't have mortgage insurance, which helps to make your monthly payment lower. There is a fee to do a VA loan. It's called a VA funding fee, but that fee is oftentimes financed into your loan amount to make its impact very nominal on your monthly payment. And if you have a VA disability, there are opportunities where you can get that entire fee waived. Now that I've told you about the benefits of the VA, there are some common misconceptions about a VA I would just want to touch upon real quickly. Number one is that some people believe that you can only use your VA benefit once, and that is absolutely not true. If you have a VA on your current house and you sell that house, you can now use that VA on the house that you're going to purchase. Can you have 2 VA loans? It's not normal. There are certain circumstances that it could happen. Let's say both you and your spouse are serving in the military. You could use your VA eligibility on this house, and then on the next house that you purchase, you could use your spouse's. So there are opportunities like that. Can you use a VA loan to buy a rental property? The answer is no. However, if you have a VA on your current house and you are getting transferred to another area and you'd like to keep that house and turn it into a rental, you can do that. Except for if you leave the VA on that rental property, then you have to use a different loan program when you go to buy the house in the next market. One of the biggest misconceptions about VA is that you don't have to bring any money in at all. Now, even though you're not required to put a down payment down, there are still closing costs associated when you buy a house. So it's about, I'm just going to give you a general ballpark of about 3% of the purchase price. And that catches a lot of people off guard because they kind of think that they're just going to walk in without any money. So there are closing costs that you have to save for if you can't get the seller to pay for them. Another common misconception is that VA is the lender. VA is not the lender. The VA loan is a benefit that was created in the original GI Bill to help more military families achieve the dream of homeownership. The VA loan is an agreement between lenders that says that if the veteran walks away from this house, the VA will help cover the expense that the lender incurs from you walking from the house. That's what a VA loan is. So the VA is not the lender. And so the reason that this is important to know is that when I say there is no down payment required on a VA loan, once you get into price ranges like $1 million or $2 million, even though there's no down payment required, the lender might say, you know what, that's a big risk for us. We're gonna go ahead and require a nominal down payment. So if you're getting up into those really high price points, you want to check with the lender to see if it's really still no down payment. And then the last thing is that the common misconception I see out in the market a lot is that condos are cheaper than homes because the purchase price of condos are often less. And what I would say to you is watch those HOA fees. Sometimes once you add the HOA fee into the monthly payment for the condos, it's actually more expensive than the houses. So make sure you're doing a side-by-side comparison. And then the last piece of advice I had for you is something that Dan already touched upon. I didn't see his slide, which is rental rates have increased all over the country. And so even though rates have increased and you think, oh my gosh, this isn't the best time to buy, it could be the best time to buy because because rentals have become so expensive. And so really do that side-by-side comparison of renting versus owning to make sure that you're using and investing your money in something that not only meets your short-term goals, but helps you to build your financial future.
I think that's spot on. I'll do two things. One, up on your screen here in just a moment, there should be another QR code because we're bringing it today.
Yay, QR codes.
We host once a month. We host a VA loan seminar where we help to educate military members and veterans on this benefit. The VA Home Loan Mythbusters will have the next one coming up here. I believe it actually might even be this week. But you can scan that QR code and register, and we can send you information on that so you can join. One more fun fact that Susan hinted towards. So you have a VA loan in the house that you're in right now. You PCS to the next market. You can either leave your VA loan on that house if you keep it, but a very, very common thing that military members will do is refinance out of their VA that was on their current house and turn that into a conventional loan, because they have an appreciation that took place over that time that allows them to do that still without paying any mortgage insurance. And then they can use that VA loan again in that next market. That's something we've seen a lot of the people that we have served do. And it allows them to continue to reactivate that benefit.
Awesome. Thank you. And for those of you who are panicking about the QR codes that I know we've been flashing up throughout the program, rest assured the links to all of those videos have been placed in the comments chat. So go ahead, cancel your cable and get a subscription to the VA Loan Mythbusters and all these other video channels that we've been putting up there. We're about to wrap up, so we're getting ready to do our Wheel of Names, which, if you've been following the program, is my very favorite. It makes me feel like Oprah. But first, we have my other favorite thing, which is rapid fire questions. Dan DeVille, are you ready? Dun, dun.
Oh man, here we go.
Question one. Should I stage my home?
Yes, you should stage your home, but staging doesn't necessarily mean a bunch of furniture. Staging can mean simply like going through and decluttering. After you've decluttered, have agent come in and give you recommendations on what pieces stay, what pieces go, and then maybe some knickknacks here and there. If you don't want to pay the full money, or if an agent can't help you pay the full money to do full-on staging, another thing that's great is virtual staging is now available. Many photographers will actually lay out a vacant space with furniture in the photos, and your photos are everything. That's what gets people to come to the house, gives them vision for what it could be, even if it's not what it is right then.
That's a fun trick.
I know.
This is not on my script, and everybody loves it when I go off of it. What does something like that run? I mean, how much can you expect to pay for virtual staging?
I would tell you, I'm sorry, agents, but ask your agent to pay for it. Then don't worry about what it costs.
Okay, I like it. What a great answer.
Yeah, the answer should be hopefully zero.
Question two, dun, dun, dun. What should I look for in a home if I plan to rent it out after I PCS?
Yeah. So again, buy every single property that you purchase as if you're purchasing an investment, even if it's only ever going to be your primary home, because you never know. Real estate is powerful. You never know what you're going to want to do with it on the outset. So what I would do is recommend you go to Rentometer. I don't know if it's Rentometer. I've always called it Rentometer.com. On there, you'll be able to see what your house will likely rent for, or what the house you're considering would likely rent for. You can also just go on Zillow. And if you're searching for a 2-bed, 2-bath, this number of square feet, and you're purchasing, do that same search in rentals and see what the comps are out there for it as a rental. And then you can compare and say, all right, am I going to be able to cover the cost of this home with rents where they currently are, knowing that over time, that rent that you're charging is only going to go up and up and up as time goes on. So buy the home in a good area, buy the home in as good of condition as you can, because those are going to be great things that impact the rentability and the quality of that going forward. Be prepared that you're going to have to do work to it, but a good property management company can help you with that. And I already mentioned, use your VA, turn it into a conventional so you can use the VA again.
Next question. In your car, do you have a speedometer or do you have a speedometer?
I have a speedometer, and I won't tell you what speed it normally shows because the other day I'm driving with my daughter, and those electric signs that show the number of how fast you're going. She goes, "Dad, look at that sign over there. It says your speed is slow down." Because if you get too fast, it just says slow down. It stops telling you your speed. So I may like cars.
Kids are the best backseat drivers of all time. All right.
Okay.
Next question from one of our viewers. Should Jenna buy a house in Savannah right now?
Savannah, I don't know enough without looking more specifically at the market. We do have a broker there would give me, and an agent there that would give me a better clue, but I don't think Savannah doesn't strike me as one that took a massive run up. There are a lot of second homes there, so maybe it did take a bit more of a run up, but if it didn't get a crazy big run up, I would say there's likely parts of Savannah for sure that would be still worth purchasing in. And great thing about Savannah, I think it's a pretty decent vacation rental market. So even if you moved on from the house and couldn't cash flow as a short or a long-term rental, it's quite possible that if you purchase with the intention of turning it into a short-term rental, you could do quite well for yourself.
And fun fact, in Savannah, there's no drink ordinance laws. And so you can walk around with an open container down on that river walk.
There you go. But you have to buy it from a store, store market. I don't know.
Oh yeah. So nice. Canopy streets, all of the good stuff. Savannah's a great place to be. All right. Last question. Dun, dun, dun. What makes Sentry unique?
I feel like we went over this to some degree, but it's our people. At the end of the day, what makes a great company has very little to do with anything other than the quality and the caliber of the people that are within it. We mean what we say with all of our hearts when we say that we live to serve those who serve to live. We specialize in a very unique type of home buying and selling because we believe that there's no one that deserves the American dream more than our nation's heroes. And it's something that is true for every single person inside of our company. We wake up every day with a fire in our belly, knowing that we're doing good and knowing that we're making an actual impact on the military members. And it's not just a day, this is generational. Our mission is to improve the lives of military families for generations through home ownership. And we try and do that every day.
Wonderful. Well, you both have been just a wealth of knowledge, excellent guests. I really appreciate it. It's always nice too when I don't have my co-host when somebody's willing to talk. So Danny, you took that one. That was great.
There you go.
Up, we do have to give away a prize, not have to give away. And today we're giving away a stressless PCS kit, a This Too Shall PCS t-shirt, and a $25 Amazon gift card to use on whatever you like, which is always exciting. So this always feels like math and science to me, sharing my screen, but we're going to try and do it, see if it works. That's always a Christmas miracle. Sometimes I like to share the wrong tab. It's one of my favorite hobbies. All right, here we go. And today's winner is it is Bellato Family Programs. So Miss Bellato, if you would do us a huge favor and send us your contact information to the PCS Grades Facebook page, send us a message so we can get out that prize to you. And you can keep it or give it away to one of your fabulous clients. I'll also tell you, we do have our Lost During My PCS Facebook page. We'll put the links in the comments here. It's one of our best resources, a very popular site for military families for PCSing, to be reunited with lost things. And sometimes you get a little extra pack in your package. And so you can share that with the folks in the group to make sure they're reunited with things that they've lost. Because we know things happen during a PCS. We are off next week. Lizanne is still moving, but we will be back on August 30th as we chat with the very funny Ashley Gutermuth about laughing through military life. Dan, Susan, I can't thank you enough for being excellent guests and for sharing
for having us.
Your passion with our community. So until then, folks, this too shall PCS. Have a great week.